Longest Shake here to do another review of one of Tripp Miller's RadioactivesDesigns products, which he sells in his RadioactivesDesigns Etsy shop. And I'm wanting to go over this time the X Shot Reflex cylinder. And again, I am using his internal upgrade kit that he sells for the Reflex, which is also known as the Adventure Force Destroyer. This is my custom one that I'm going to personally run as one of my pistol primaries, or as sidearm. But here's what it started life as. Now these are the X Shot Reflex, just sold under the Adventure Force branding at Walmart for $7. The X Shot Reflex you can find at Dollar General for $8, and other stores sometimes sell them as a 2-pack for $15, which is a very good deal. Very good pistol overall, one of my absolute tip-top favorites. It fires in the middle to upper 70s in stock form. When firing the X Shot darts can almost hit around 80, but most other darts it fires at about 75 feet per second, so very respectable performance. Has a good grip, nice, easy, smooth rear prime, 6-shot cylinder in the front. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing unusual, just a good solid performer with good modding potential. If you open them up, it has a good sized plunger tube in stock form, although it is kind of hampered, even with the better than Nerf performance. It is hampered by dead space in the front. There's a pretty good amount of dead space there. And the cylinder itself in stock form is not the best. You have one single screw holds it together. I'm going to do a kind of quick modding video in the future on this here and how to get better performance with this. And I can tell you now, it's more work, but if you're really having to pinch pennies, it's worthwhile. But the focal point of this video is I'm going to show you the differences between the stock and the modded version to highlight a bit of his kit. And, of course, we're going to go over the cream of the crop here, the 8-shot cylinder. This is fantastic. It's the first one that I'm aware of that anybody's put out for the X Shot, at least, and made it publicly available. And this thing is available in a shop. I know he sells 3D print files as a just digital file only purchase, but if we can convince him, I know he sells some of his cylinders in the shop as well. And this one is beautiful. We're going to take a good close look at this. This has such good printing that it has a shine almost to it. Ignore this here, if my camera even picks that up. Ignore that line. That is actually where it has rubbed a little of my clear coat onto it from my paint job. But this is an impeccable print quality. And this is his rotational mech. Of course, it has to have this in order to properly space it for the additional 2 ammo positions. But this thing is awesome. But also included, and we're going to go over them, is the differences between what his kit provides for the internal modifications. Your stock plunger tube, got a nice big chunky front end here. This is all dead space up to the seal. And of course you got your typical gap in the plunger head. Again, that's all dead space. You look in there, combined this with all of that empty space in there, you've got a lot of lost volume from here forward. Keep that in mind. As I set this aside, and again, you're seeing how simple the internals of these are. It's beautiful to work with these. Now, pulling his out, I do have a 6 kilogram spring doubled up in there with the stock spring. These are one of the few blasters I do that with. But I have also improved the seal with a few wraps of E-tape, and this has his dead space reduction for the plunger tube or plunger head, and inside this is a whole new plunger tube front section. This is a solid 3D printed core with just a hole there. Through the back end, that is a flat junction to the front of the plunger tube, and you do need to mod this a bit and then epoxy this on. As you see, he's even 3D printed for that gap there for that little tab, and that is nice to use as an anchor point. And then it includes a nice new seal that's much bigger than the stock one, which as well, let's go side by side here. Much bigger, much better steel. So you have a much more efficient airflow. Of course, there is no air restrictor in there, but the only dead space you have is from the front of here at the size of that hole. And of course, again, I love the internals of these things. They're so easy to work with. Yeah, his 3D print even has that factored in to where it can rest against the stock plunger tube point there. It's just a fantastic design overall. And I know I say that word a lot, but I mean, it's just impeccably made. It's just impeccable work. All things been taken into consideration. And with the basically near flawless print quality of this cylinder, I'm on board. I already have ordered more cylinders off of him. I already ordered another one of the Megas, and this right here is going to be another must-have. In the kit, he does include a spring spacer. This only, as far as I've been able to do, it works with the spring that comes stock in there. I did not test a increase of just that kit, because I've been doing that kit plus a cylinder. I will do probably a separate video eventually just for that kit, because that internals upgrade kit I think is basically now a must-have for any X Shot Reflex fan. But the kit is the spring spacer, the plunger tube front section replacement, and the plunger head dead space reduction disc. It's a 3D printed disc that goes and fits right in that gap on the plunger head and allows you just to epoxy it in place, and it's level. Fantastic idea. I mean, it's a beautiful engineering kind of. We'll place that all back in. This one will eventually be modded as well. I absolutely cannot get enough of the reflexes being modded. But with the spring that's in here, which is a 6 kilogram Alpha Hawk spring that I found on Amazon, I will do my best to remember to put a link to that as well as both his cylinder and the internal upgrade kit. Again, absolute must-have for any reflex owner. And the cylinder has been fantastic. I've been firing it all day, and to be honest, I don't know how nobody has already made this before. This is such a fantastic, wonderful idea that, I mean, they do it for, many people do it already for the hammer shot, but the reflex to me I like better than the hammer shot, so I'm kind of biased, and I don't know how nobody's came up with this. It's just, I mean, it's a stupendous idea. So it's a great blaster overall. I mean, again, $7 for the Adventure Force Destroyer version, and it works beautifully. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and we're going to fire off these darts, and I'll show you my results I've already found through about 30 minutes of chronograph testing, but I'm going to share that live with you here. So let's go. Now for some chrono readings here. I will fire 4 of the X Shot darts for a comparison of the same darts being fired out of the stock version, which hit an average in the middle to upper 70s. And we're going to compare that to the Radioactive Design cylinder backed up by double sprung internals with a 6 kilogram Alpha Hawk spring inside, as well as the stock spring and of course his dead space reduction for the front of the plunger tube plus the plunger head. Here goes. $136.7. $142.8. A misread of 338.1. A misread of 0.5. Let's fire another couple here, or at least one more. That says 200.2. I think the X Shot darts are starting to misread a little bit, as is the case sometimes with them. I will fire 2 more just for the sake of trying to get some good readings. 129.6. and 133.8. Okay, it looks like we can count on around about 130 FPS. Now on to some men gun style darts. I got a 98.3. I have had significantly lower performance from these. 120.4, so maybe a bad dart on the one. 121.5. This is more along the lines of my testing I found off camera. And 107.8. I've generally got about 120-ish on the men guns, and that was probably a bad dart with a hole in it or the head coming off. So about 120 or so with men guns, and pushing up over 130 now compared to the stock of about 76 or 77. That's a pretty vast improvement. Let's go back into the review here. Okay, coming back with my final opinions on this after showing you the chronograph, where, I mean, you can see that with X Shot darts we're getting around about an average of 130 feet per second, and with the men guns about 10 FPS lower or so, which is pretty standard for the men guns. They're pretty accurate, but don't ever give the highest FPS readings. But looking at it, I mean, yeah, I also did a two-face style hydro dip, where I do like to do that sometimes, where I take one half and dip it separately from the other instead of dipping the entire blaster. And I did it because I believe that now with the parts that I've got here from Radioactive Designs, this is a very worthy blaster. Very worthy. And I mean, for local games, this could be fantastic for so many people across the hobby. To have a very light pistol that now holds 8 shots, and I mean, this thing is basically almost hitting up there to Aeon Pro, Nexus Pro levels. With half-length darts, with the Adventure Force Pro from Dart Zone, with those darts, I'm actually hitting up around 145 to 150 feet per second in this cylinder. You have to you feed them down in, but I'm getting 145 to 150 feet per second out of this cylinder with this setup. Now that is a 6 kilogram double up with the stock spring and using his internal upgrade kit. So basically, near Nexus Pro level performance out of an X Shot Reflex / Adventure Force Destroyer. And with full lengths, getting 120 to 130 feet per second. That's awesome. And, this is still the tinkering, modding side of the hobby, so I absolutely love this. The fact that you can take, I think, a extraordinarily undervalued pistol and make it something genuinely worthy of the most type of games that any of us go to. No, it's not top of the line NIC type equipment here. But even in that sense, it would be a worthwhile sidearm to carry. This is going to beat out a hammer shot. I mean, hammer shot, quicker rate of fire with the Hammer Prime. But most people running around with, say, like an 8 kilogram spring in their hammer shot, most people, even with spring upgrade and a little bit of work done, they're not even hitting 100 feet per second normally. Of course, Tripp Miller is the crazy genius behind extreme high FPS hammer shot builds, and now he's going into the X Shot Reflex area. So I would say stay tuned for him to put out a lot more, but what he's already got here gets a wholehearted recommendation from me. The cylinder's a little pricey, but the print quality was impeccable. This print quality here is the best. I would compare it with the best I've ever seen on anything, anywhere. And that's the highest praise I can give it. And I do believe, just in my use here in a day of running it and shooting different types of darts out of it, it's held up. It rotates perfectly. It's not temperamental with darts in any way, shape, or form. It'll shoot half lengths, full lengths, all brands, and like 120 to 130 feet per second with full lengths in general. Because I've kind of used the men guns in my typical battle bin. That's what our kind of generic dart we use. Of course, I do myself use Busby Precise Pros and Worker full lengths when I'm going to fire full lengths myself, my personal usage. But I like to use these for testing purposes because a lot of people run these. So, 120 to 130 feet per second at a full length, and more in the 140 to 150 foot per second average on half lengths. Now, again, 6 kilogram spring, doubled with the stock spring, and using his dead space reduction pieces, it's turned this into a very efficient and very effective pistol without sinking a fortune into it. And that's awesome. So, wholehearted recommendation, 2 thumbs ups, and I myself now have a wonderful pistol that can go along with my Zeniths as my pistol primary. Because this is basically my number 2 or 3 favorite pistol personally right now, as far as multi-shot pistols. Zenith number 1 still. And I need to see if Tripp will start tinkering with some Zenith mods. I'd love to see like a 9 or 10 shot cylinder for a Busby Zenith. That'd be awesome. Here I go with Busby talk. But wrap it up here. Absolutely recommend you check this out. If you're not even interested in the cylinder, the internals kit is a must buy. I think he actually only has that priced at like $10. And for the pieces in there and his design work, it's well worth it. So links will be in the description below. Please, if you liked this, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free, if you're not, go ahead, subscribe, and share the video all around. I am trying to grow this channel quite a bit this year. I want this to become something bigger than it is. But this is Mungus Jake saying thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this.